We've gone through times in the past where we have placed tariffs or
Oh, yeah,
whatever on certain trading partners. And
sure.
if it gets broad based and you say, hey, everything that's an input that we take from outside producers in this country is going to get tariffed, that is a tough proposition for inflation. And inflation right now is not a spot where we can feel warm and cozy about doing things that are going to increase inflation undoubtedly, because that will
Mm.
undoubtedly increase inflation.
All righty, folks. We need to have a conversation about an idea that I saw pass the wire, I think, over the weekend. And that is the chances of adding a 10% tariff to all imported goods. We're going to break this down into what might be short term and long term perspectives. And again, what are we really talking about? We're basically talking about all imported goods from our trading partners being slapped with a 10% tax or duty or fee or whatever you want to call that. And I want to have a conversation with the one and only Taylor, who spent 10 years on Wall Street, now runs Life Goal Investments, because I do think there are short term and long term ramifications, some good, some bad. I just want to talk about what he thinks. So, Taylor, I just sprung this on you. What are your thoughts first of a 10% tariff on all imported goods?
Yeah, that should be a deflationary pressure, right? That
That was yeah,
I saw
maybe.
you take me seriously there, and then you're
Yeah,
like, "Is this guy a moron?"
yeah. What the hell is he talking about? Yeah, I mean, simply said, right? I mean, in fairness, there are two options. The importer could take a hit on gross margins. That is
Yep,
one option. Keep
yep.
prices the same, or they raise prices to match the this new tax. I mean, that's
Yeah, and profit margins aren't good enough to take a 10% input hit. So, yeah, it's gonna get passed along, there's no doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, we've gone through, times in the past where we have placed tariffs or
yeah,
whatever on certain trading partners, and
sure.
if it gets broad-based and you say, "Hey, everything that's an input that we take from outside producers in this country is gonna get tariffed," that is a tough proposition for inflation. And inflation right now is not a spot where we can feel warm and cozy about doing things that are going to increase inflation undoubtedly, because that will
Mm,
undoubtedly increase inflation.
yeah. Well, I think the other thing that's maybe not appreciated that my mind went to, so first off, absolutely inflationary, right? Take anything, add cost to it, that kind of the definition of inflation.
I think I know
But
you're going. Keep going.
right, but there's also um they're not going to take this sitting down,
That's the point.
right? The US does export some stuff. And do you think that Germany and or Japan or Australia or China or Mexico or whoever is importing our stuff
Right.
won't reciprocate in kind?
Correct.
I mean, that was the first thing I was thinking. I was like, okay, fine, 10%. I get it. Spur manufacturing. Maybe we make more stuff. You balance this, but then I'm like, whoa, what do they do?
Right.
Right? I'm like, oh my goodness, this could break global trade.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's the reality of it. This is like the ultimate isolationist policy. And in fairness, like the person that proposed this, I would say this: our country is better suited to make this move than most other countries, than any other country in the world,
Oh, any other country,
because
yeah.
because what we have are the three biggies. The three biggies being technology,
Mhm.
all the technology around the world, this is definitely hyperbolic comment, is developed in Silicon Valley. Like reality is we develop the technology. It might get built elsewhere, but that is the brain trust for the entire technological arm of the world, if you will.
Sure.
Second thing is we have agriculture. So we have the most fruitful agriculture, which has made our country a success from the beginning of time. And then the third thing, which is new, is now we have oil.
Yeah,
And
we're
that
energy
was the
independent.
big
We're
change.
mhm,
Yeah. So the
we're net
ability to frack
exporters.
and and and
Yeah.
and get oil. Now we are a net exporter of oil where we produce more than we actually consume.
Yeah, and again, if we go back just to the idea or the framework of a 10% tariff, it would have some long-term, I'll call them long-term benefits. I see it that way. That would certainly spur manufacturing. We would build more stuff because again, we'd be buying less stuff elsewhere. It would allow our, capitalist system to function, and we would just simply make more stuff.
Correct.
Um, it wouldn't be overnight. It probably wouldn't be in a calendar year, but if you look out 2.5 years to really get this going, I think the US makes more stuff.
Yep.
What do you think?
And it does take down the risk, right? One of the things we're very concerned with right now is, some of those Middle Eastern or Far East countries, stealing our intellectual capital and things like that. Like this, if we become this warehouse where we produce everything internally in this country, it definitely alleviates some of the stealing of our intellectual property risk. It also alleviates some of the risk of, hey, what if they get mad at us and cut us off?
Mm,
Because, again, this is an extreme example, but if you go back to the 1970s, we got cut off from foreign oil. And
yeah.
that's what caused the massive inflationary pressure that we have. Now, again, this is
Well, I
certainly an
think you could
inflationary
I think
pressure.
you could even go back more recent. I think if we really took an honest assessment of what happened in the first 6 months of the pandemic, we realized that we were relying on people that don't like us
Correct.
for our pharmaceuticals, for our what was it called? PPE or personal protection or whatever the hell that stuff
Yep.
was called.
Yep.
We had let some very, very important things go elsewhere.
Right.
And we still haven't fixed that, at least in any great numbers. So I do think the spirit behind this is positive longer term. I think being more independent and less reliant is a good thing, but it would have it would break global trade. And I
It
don't
would.
maybe global trade needs to be broken. I don't know, but I don't
To
know.
your point, and it's the knock-on effect that comes along with it. Is what do people
Exactly.
do retroactively to us if we were to institute a foreign policy like that?
Yeah. I mean, what again, I'm playing with this in real time with folks. I mean, one of the things that I'm thinking about now that you laid out, well, the US got the technologies, got food, got energy. So we are in the best position to do this. What about the countries that are single threaded? They have oil or they have food or they have manufacturing or tech.
Right.
I actually think, I mean, I'm just playing with this in real time. That actually might start more wars, right? Because if
Oh,
you're single threaded, if you got food, but you need oil, or you got oil, but you need food, one of the options is to go take it by hook or by crook.
Oh, there's no doubt about this. The geopolitical tension that would be reverberated out from a decision like this would be massive. You've seen, the Middle East is totally reliant upon oil, and you've seen it creates this hotbed of tension. The Middle East has not been the most amicable to
Mm,
outside influences if you look at the broader scale of the world in general. And so with that, it's to your point, when you have one thing and need other things, you use that one point of leverage and try to get what you want on the other side of that. And if everyone is simultaneously trying to do that, it
mm.
creates strife.
Yeah, and again, I'm just playing with this in real time. I mean, again, there'd be the short-term inflation that's unquestionable. Um, but you kind of play this out. We raise 10%, they raise 10%. Global trade certainly slows, right? I don't think
Sure.
it ever goes to zero, but it slows. Um, countries are making more stuff individually, out us and others. Maybe some more, I don't know, frenemies, wars, whatever. But I wonder because again, your point about us being kind of the three-legged stool, tech, food, energy, do we not come out frankly stronger in 5 or 10 years?
Well, it certainly drives efficiency, right? So creating inefficiency essentially on the front end drives innovation, which will then force us to be more efficient with, again, robotics probably picks up at that point because
For
we
sure.
just can't employ people here domestically at the rates that we employ folks outside the US. I'm not saying we employ the whomever employs them to create the inputs that we then utilize or import. So yeah, it definitely would drive efficiencies. Necessity is the ultimate. What's the statement? Necessity is the ultimate generator of. You know,
Yeah, whatever. I know what
you
you
get where
mean.
I'm going with that. If
Yeah,
you're if
yeah.
you're driven if you're driven to get better by necessity, you'll get better.
Exactly. Yeah, when that's how you land on the moon when you didn't think it was possible. And
Necessity is the driver of innovation, I think is what it
there you
is.
go. There you go. So yeah, I think it's I think the knee jerk reaction from economists and kind of money folks would be, ooh, that's inflationary. But I think there are some second, third order consequences that may not be terrible. It would hurt. It would unquestionably hurt for 12 to 24 months. I think I see all downside for 2 years, but maybe there's upside after. It's an
Yeah.
interesting riddle.
It is. I think that there's more negative that comes to this than positive. That's just my personal knee jerk reaction. Even in the longer term.
Well,
Um,
I think you have to play 3D or 4D chess because you're gonna have to
right.
anticipate theirs. You're gonna have to, because what really happens, back to your point about the big 3, is if you are a country that has one of those, do you maybe you are forced to partner, and maybe bridges and relationships become stronger, or do you just take? Or I think there's yeah, I'm not a geopolitical strategist, but there would certainly be some consternation around the world if this happened.
No doubt. It would be interesting. The knee jerk reaction of the market would not be a pretty one. Over time,
No.
it might change, but in the short order, it wouldn't be pretty.
Yeah. At the end of the day, folks, we certainly have done tariffs in the past. I remember doing tariffs on steel and other things when others were getting government assistant to kind of even the playing field. I am
Yep.
not aware of a time in the past where we've just taken a blanket whack at all imported goods. But hey, it was an interesting conversation. I think the dominoes that would fall would be some to be expected, but some probably unexpected. Taylor, where can people find you?
Yeah, find us at Life Goal Investments. We're on both Instagram and TikTok doing daily videos of 60 seconds to a minute on financial updates.
There you go. Thank you.